You were live.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So, really. This week we're going to go about being limitless. We've talked about it a little bit last week where we put obstacles in our way. In fact, one of the obstacles I was talking about last week was this very instance where I was saying that when we started talking about periscoping, that it made me really nervous. And it shouldn't, because this isn't any different than us sitting in here having a normal meeting. It's not any different than me getting up and talking to the people at Everest. It's just like everything else we've ever done. So there's no reason for me to put that limitation on myself and get myself worked up and nervous and freaked out. And I think we all probably are a little bit right now. But that's okay. So today we're going to talk about other self-imposed limitations that we put on ourselves in our lives. Daniel, you and I talked about a few the other day. One of my limitations is that I have in my head that I'm not a morning person. And I've told myself that for so many years that I am definitely not a morning person now. And I wake up and I fight the alarm and I'm a bear in the morning and my little complainer goes insane in the morning. That's like, it is a morning person. It really likes the mornings because that's whenever I get really stressed out. So recognizing our limitations can help us overcome them and work with them to be successful. This allows us to remove the obstacles and set our own standards. When you really think of the people that have made a big impact in our society and done some really amazing things, the impossible things, that's because they decided to be limitless. That's because when they looked at the things that were in their way of getting to their goals, they removed those things. I tease my kids all the time. I'm not going to be a 6'2" model. And it's usually because they're saying, but that's not fair. I want to do this. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to be a 6'2" model, and that's not going to happen. But truthfully, if I wanted to be, if that was something really, really important to me, which it's not, if that really was, I could put on some high heels and I could be 6'2". And I could redefine society's idea of what a model looks like. I could really change the way people look at that. You know, we've got plus size models now. That wasn't something that was there before. That was because people challenged the concept and they went out there and they showed that that was beautiful. We have children who have Down syndrome that are models now. Yeah. And they're beautiful. And that's because someone challenged the concept and removed that limitation on themselves and on their children, and they put themselves out there to try something different than what society had seen before. They removed those limits and became limitless. So common personal limitations, your inner dialogue is one that we talk about a lot. You know, your little complainer, we all have one. We allow it to get away from us and start taking over. We identify with it instead of recognizing that we're much bigger than that. We should not limit ourselves to those complaints in our heads, that dialogue going off in our head like a little script, right? So that's a really common one that we all struggle with, especially in the mornings. Speaking in absolutes is another one. Always and never, and I can't do anymore, I can't take it. Those are absolutes that we shouldn't be using. That's creating a limitation, isn't it? It's putting a perception on our reality that's not true. So fear and uncertainty, those are big limitations for all of us because we look at situations and we don't know what's coming, we don't know what's going to happen. We start asking the what ifs. Remember we talked about what ifs and they're not a good thing. And it stops us from doing stuff. It gets in our way. Lack of knowledge is a big one. As leaders, we should be reading and learning all the time. What we don't know is what's going to hurt us. It's what's going to cause us the problems, and we don't know what we don't know. So it's our job to go out and try to find out what we don't know and do better. And that's exactly what this training is about, right? We're trying to learn to do better and be better. Overcommitting. We let our pride get in our way, and we try to take on more than what we can really do. We've all done it. We've all said, okay, I'll do it. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll take more. Give me all you can give me. And it becomes too much, and it creates a limitation on us because we crumble. And then we're not successful, and neither is anyone around us because we've created an obstacle. We've created a problem in our lives. Lack of communication. That's one of the biggest obstacles you'll find both in our personal lives and our professional lives. Because we are limiting our ability to do things because we're not communicating to others and getting their involvement. We're not putting our fears and our concerns out there so that we can get past them. We're not acknowledging those things. We're not talking to the people that we're frustrated with because they're not talking to us. And it becomes a limitation. We really have to communicate. That's so important in life in general. I can't even tell you. That's the key to so much success. Unrealistic expectations. We've talked about that too. So we set expectations on other people that we wouldn't want set on us. One that I've seen people do in relationships is, he's not doing this. Why isn't he doing this? Well, did you tell him you wanted him to do it? Well, no. He should know. No. That's not realistic. We're not mind readers. We should be realistic about what we expect others to do, and that goes back to communicating too, doesn't it? So pride, I mentioned that before. Pride is huge. When we allow our pride to get bigger than us, it limits us. People don't want to bring things to you whenever you have a big ego, because then you're that person that's really hard to work with, aren't you? So it's very important to keep your pride in check and be humble. When you're humble, man, when you think of the really humble people out there, they go further than any of us, because they don't let their pride get bigger than them, and they allow other people to be a part of what they're doing and get credit for things, and they don't care who gets the credit. And they end up shining much brighter than anyone else. And we've seen it on our team. We've seen it with people we know out in our lives. We've seen it everywhere. And we want to encourage our kids to be that way. So we want to remind ourselves to be humble. Be realistic, you know, and remember that we all have limits, and we should be working past those, but one of our greatest limits is us. Lack of confidence. Funny, you go from too much pride to lack of confidence, but lack of confidence can get in our way too. We won't put ourselves out there. We won't put our ideas out there. We won't try live streaming. We won't do things that could really make things explode in a great way, because we are so scared of what other people are going to think, or we don't think we can be successful at it. Well, you don't know if you can succeed at it unless you try it. I was watching a video the other day about how fear of success can get in our way. And it's a huge problem for some of us. We are so afraid of putting ourselves out there and trying because we're not 100% sure we can do it. Even if you're not 100% sure you can do it and you feel like it's something you want to do, try it. The failure comes with a lesson, right? We've all done that where we didn't succeed, but you know what? We found something that will make us do better the next time. So we want to continue doing that every time. Now, as a business, we have limitations as well. And some of these are self-imposed and they're positive. Right now, we've got a limitation on our business that's a positive one because we're limited financially, intentionally. Because we're trying to get out of debt. We're trying to be debt-free as a company. And that puts a tight squeeze on us sometimes because we won't get a line of credit. But the ultimate goal is for us to get past that financial limitation and be able to do more than other companies can, because we're not relying on someone else's money. We're relying on our own drive to get us there, and we will get there faster, and we will stand out in the crowd because we are not having to ask a bank to take us there, right? We drive our own bus, as Ray says it, right? So leadership can be the problem and the solution in a company. I really like this. This is something Dave Ramsey's group says, that if you're the leader, you're the problem and you can be the solution. Because if there's a failure in the company, it's because you weren't leading well most of the time. There are times it's, a matter of the person's just not fit for the position, but if we're doing everything right on the front end, we shouldn't have many of those, right? So you can be the problem, but you can also be the solution. So you can be the limitation to the company, because as a leader, if we lack creativity, if we lack the ability to share with others and get others involved, and we lack diversity as a company, that can limit us. We've seen it in companies where there's so many people up at the top that are making all the decisions, and they kind of get stale. They get caught in their old ways and they don't change. They get in a rut. and they lose being engaged the way we talk about being engaged. And it can definitely limit a company. It just becomes a job for everybody, not just the people at the top, but everyone underneath them, because there's nothing exciting going on. And that's what we've seen change over the last year. Is it's gotten exciting because everybody's getting engaged. We're doing great things. We've removed a lot of those limitations on ourselves. Again, lack of communication. A lack of communication in a company is a huge limitation, because then there's no outlet for the creativity. There's no outlet for people to offer new ideas and ways to do things. There's no opportunity to lean down processes because no one's talking. Because nothing's ever going to change. It's not going to get better. We've heard all that, haven't we? And that was a huge limitation on us because it wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to get better because we weren't talking about it. We weren't facing it and challenging that. And we should always be challenging our limitations. Lack of unity, we've talked about this as well. This was another concept we got from Entree Leadership, that the 5 enemies of unity: gossip, lack of communication, unresolved conflicts, sanctioned incompetence, and lack of shared vision. These are the things that we've been working against for the last year. We've been removing those limitations on ourselves. And that's why we have seen our company turn completely around and turn into something we never expected. It's been exciting because we're getting there. We're almost limitless, aren't we? And whenever you look forward, don't all of you have this idea of, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. It's so exciting. So, and lack of goal setting. As a company, that can be a huge limit. Because if you're not reaching for the next thing, if you're not continuing to push yourselves to do better, you're not going to get anywhere. You're just going to stay in exactly where you are. And you might slip, right? So goal setting is really important, and it's important not just to continue to push your goals, but push your standards. Other companies' standards, we leave those in our dust. We don't set our standards based on anyone else. We've talked about that, and Scott's brought up how we set our own standards. What we do in the market is above and beyond what most of the other companies that we're competing with do, right? When we do a setup, we're doing it in 2 hours or less, and other companies are doing it in 2 or 3 days. And that's because they're no longer goal setting. They're not pushing the standard, but we are. And we're not setting our standard based on what they do. We're not saying, oh, well, other companies just do it in 2 or 3 days, so it's okay if we slip a little bit. We're continuing to push that standard and do better every time, and we want to continue to do that. So what are some of your personal, professional, and our company's limitations that you can think of, that you've seen?
Well, I know that right now it feels like what you're saying, that the sky's the limit. But before all of this leadership training and the culture change, it did seem like we had a lot of limitations because we weren't open to change or ideas and improvement. And just this year alone, all the changes that have come about, it's just mind-boggling. Like all these good changes. And so now, I like you said earlier, I feel like sky's the limit. And we have everybody in position, in good positions, strong leaders, and so I don't feel like there's any limitations as a company.
Right, exactly. And that's what we want to continue to do, is look at the little ones that are still there, because sometimes we don't always recognize our limitations. I don't always recognize some of mine. Like, they come across as valid explanations. Like the gym thing that you and I were talking about. I thought I had some really valid explanations about why I wasn't making it to the gym. You know, I didn't have time. Look at my schedule. I'm up at 5 o'clock. I'm not home until 7. When am I going to squeeze it in? You know, and if I go to the gym at lunch, I come back, my hair's a mess. Girls, you know what I'm talking about. It gets bad, especially even if I take a shower, then it gets all, I look like a drowned rat, and nobody wants to do that. And it's for everybody's benefit, really. And honestly, that's just all. Those are excuses. Those are self-imposed limitations that I need to get over, and I've challenged myself to do that this week, and I've already gone once this week, and it's been great. and I'm excited to go today again. And I'm going to start challenging myself to go twice a week at least, and then I'm going to push it to 3 times. But even if I'm not going to the gym, if I'm getting over the fact that I'm not a morning person and I'm getting up that extra 15 minutes even in the morning, it would help so much. And that's been my challenge this week. I'll be honest, I haven't succeeded quite so well with that one this week. I haven't gotten up 15 minutes early, not one day. But I'm still pushing myself to do it. So, those excuses can come across like valid explanations, but they're really limitations, right?
Right.
So can y'all think of anything like that you might have?
I procrastinate. I think that limits me a lot on things that I want to do. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I want to do that, or I want to try this, or I want to go here. But I'm such a procrastinator, yeah. And then I just put it off and put it off. So, right. I think that's my biggest thing that limits me as personally is procrastinating. I got to find a way to be better at that. I don't know.
I think most people do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put off the things we want for this reason or that reason. And, my degree was something that I put off. And I ended up doing it the hard way, like I do everything. I waited until my kids were 3 and 3 months old, and I was going through a divorce, and then I decided to go to school. And 6.5 years of struggling with that obstacle, but it paid off dividends because I challenged myself to do it regardless. And there was lots of times I've told y'all where I was laying on the floor bawling with both kids bawling next because mommy was bawling, and it ended up paying off. But it was hard to overcome that because I procrastinated. I really put it off thinking I've got forever, and then forever came, and it was time to do it. It was time to lead by example. And with this limitless thing, we want to show our team that we're all limitless, right? So we've got to lead by example. So I definitely want us all to be looking for opportunities to show other people that we can be limitless and remove some of those limitations that we've had. Remove that, I'm having a bad day, so I'm just going to go through the motions today. No, we don't want to do that. That's a limitation on ourselves again, right?
Yeah.
So what are some other ones?
Mainly just trying to convince yourself. That's probably going to break the limit, your limit. Because if you make yourself decide on what to change, so you make excuses and you don't do it. So if you have to convince yourself to do it, then you're limitless then.
Mm-hmm.
So having confidence.
Yes.
And encouraging
With
yourself.
no pride.
Right.
And confidence and just really faking it till you make it sometimes is the only way you can have confidence. It really is.
That is it.
Doing these classes, that was a struggle for me because I tell you all the time, I'm an introvert. But I had to fake it till I made it that first. Y'all remember that first day? I was like, it's hot. Is it hot, y'all? And I was turning to beet red.
I remember. And I'm hot natured, and it wasn't hot in here. And we were like, it's hot, let's open the door.
Yeah, that was me. I was challenging myself, and it was rough and embarrassing. But, look what it got us. This has been great.
It has been.
So,
And you always do great.
oh, you're so sweet.
You do.
It's funny to think back on that particular day because you're nervous and getting hot, and we're over here kind of like, what are we doing?
Yes.
What is this? What? I don't know. I don't want to do that.
Right.
And then now, 24 weeks or 24, trainings later, it's like, this is my favorite time of the week to be in here with you guys. It is.
It is
Such
fun, and it really allows us to communicate, right? That's the best part. We're communicating, and we're changing our limits because think of where we were a year ago. We were so limited. We were so not engaged. We weren't communicating. We weren't unified. We didn't have a shared vision. I don't even know if we knew what our goals were at that point. I mean, Billing knew some goals because they're challenged every week, but everybody else was like, my goal is to make it to work and make it through the day. Right?
8 to 5.
Right. And, now we've got people begging to come in and do these trainings, and, we're hoping to roll out another group after the first of the year and do a third group, which is definitely going to be a challenge for me because I'm not going to have any more days left to take off during the week. I'm going to be here every day. But it's exciting because it's great to see that light bulb come on.
Yes. And it's very exciting for me because this has brought about a change for me, as not only at work but in my personal life. And I know the last few weeks we've been speaking on Limitless, but just all of the topics have been so on point for me in my personal life. And this year I have started the steps of starting my own business. That mindset has came back, wanting to go to school. It's been 20 years. And I'm just now, next year I will be going back to school, and I will be starting the steps to get my own business going. So, yeah, these classes
Yay.
have helped me just really find out who I am, motivate me, encourage me to just move forward into what and who God has called me to be. So,
So those limits are just falling away.
yeah, it's just
That's
falling
so
off.
exciting.
Yay, Yoli.
I'm so proud of you.
Got goosebumps.
I know.
Something good's gonna happen.
It is, and we're all kind of starting to feel that buzz that, what else can I do? I can do more than this. What else can I do? And we're kind of pushing it and pushing that limit and speaking in public places and doing fun stuff that we never would have done a year and a half, 2 years ago. So,
I'm gonna see if I can fly later.
can I watch?
Okay.
If it was really important to you, you'd find a way, right?
Yeah.
Just don't find your way to the hospital,
Hospital.
please. We kind of need our
You're
ops
here.
manager.
Not on company time.
Right. That week you're going to be off, that's a perfect time to do it. So,
He heals pretty fast.
yeah. So we really want to challenge our team to be limitless too. So spreading that excitement, spreading that intention and that ability to kind of shut down all the internal noise. That's been probably a big reason we're starting to get that buzz is because we've shut down that internal noise. And we're starting to really follow the path we were meant to take. We're starting to really see who we're meant to be. And, I was telling the other group the other day that, there was this guy, he used to walk around and tell people stories, and he, the people that would listen went with them, and he had this very ambitious goal to save the world. And he did. And he faced the impossible and the greatest adversity we've ever seen and rose 3 days later, right? And talk about limitless. And that's supposed to be our model, right? That's supposed to be who we follow. And sometimes we forget that, he had every excuse not to do what he did. So there's no excuse for us to throw in our way that's bigger than the excuses he had. And there's no reason not to let ourselves be limitless and push ourselves to do those big goals, those goals that everybody else says are impossible. Because there's nothing impossible when you really want it. I mean, we've seen people who are amputees that have gotten up and done amazing things. And they had every excuse not to. They had every limitation in front of them. We've seen people with all sorts of disabilities get up and do things. And we've seen people with, PTSD that have overcome that and inspired others and made a huge impact in the world. And we are very fortunate, very blessed to have good health and to have good people and good support around us. Let's be limitless. Let's inspire others to follow us. Push and do bigger things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we'll stop live streaming now and tell everybody thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everybody.